Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the kickoff conference of our EU-funded project, Green Skills in Vocational Education and Training. As you know, this is a project that we are co-organizing with our member EFEE, the Federation of Education Employers, and I am really happy to have the honor to introduce for you in the welcoming session Commissioner Schmit. Actually, first of all, it's thanks to the European Commission that we can make this project a reality. And I think that with this project, we are really in the core of one of the key EU priorities of the moment, which is to make the Green Deal a reality through a just transition that leave no one behind. The very feature of this project and how we want to materialize this is as employers and providers of services of general interest to make a stronger link with the education and vocational training employers that are in our membership to realize what is a very much a buzzword in Brussels, the skills mismatch. So we want to stop talking about that, but really try concretely to fill this gap in a very concrete way, and is a long way to make this just transition. So I'm happy that Commissioner Schmit is with us, not only because in his current life he's in charge, among many other things, of the skill agenda, but also because in his previous life as the Minister of Employment of Luxembourg that I have been dealing with for many, many years, I know how dear and how much he values services of general interest and the contribution they can make to the social market economy. So, Nicolas, it's a pleasure to give you the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Valeria, for these kind words. Dear participants, dear Danielle also, let me first welcome everyone and welcome the initiative of SGI Europe and the European Federation of Education Employers to organize this conference. And you rightly said that I believe very strongly in services of general interest. This is an indispensable part of our social market economy, and especially in this very special period of transformation. This meeting, this conference on green skills and vocational education and training, I must say is very timely. And our economies are transforming. We all know that our current consumption, working or traveling habits are no longer sustainable. This has led the Commission to make of the green transition absolutely a priority of its mandate. And this green transition can be an opportunity for workers and learners, for companies also, for entities of general interest. It is indeed estimated that climate policies could create around 1.2 million jobs in the EU by 2030. And around 2 million by 2050. But this does not happen automatically. New jobs will require new green skills or new skills. These skills for green jobs in recycling or renewable energy, but also for most jobs that will have to adapt to the new economic and ecological context. The impact of the green transition will be particularly relevant for different sectors, among them transport, energy, the water sector, which are focused by the green skills in that project. Managing energy production or transport will be very different with renewables compared to fossil fuels. And this means new and different technologies and skills are needed. At the crossroads of energy and transport, we also have the issue of batteries. Here again, the lack of adequate skills is now the most important bottleneck faced in this sector, a sector that might create hundreds of thousands of jobs in a relatively near future. And now we are very active in helping these companies, these sectors, planning huge investments all over Europe, very connected to the automotive sector, precisely to turn this around. And there is also water. In terms of accelerating climate change and scarce water resources, efficient water management will become increasingly important. Water supply and water management will continue to play a crucial role for green jobs and again will require a new set of skills. The challenges cannot be underestimated. How can we transform these sectors, these professions, meet these new demands and skills, and reap the full potential of the green transition when only 2 in 5 adults currently participate in learning every year? So lifelong learning is absolutely a must. And therefore we have really in our action plan that was endorsed by the Porto Summit focused on the right for lifelong learning, and we consider that at least 60% of all workers should have a learning session, a reskilling session, an upskilling session once a year. How can we make sure the world of training and education adapts as rapidly as the world of work transforms, as new sectors, new activities, new professions come up? The European Commission has started developing solutions last year in July with an ambitious skills agenda, an agenda that promotes green as well as digital skills development as the key factor to keep our economy innovative. We are working hand in hand with industry and social partners to create large-scale partnerships for re- and upskilling through the Pact for Skills. Some exist already, for example, in the automotive industry, where changes are extremely rapid. Businesses, social partners, and EU member states have taken the full measure of our challenges. And again, our objective is to train 60% of Europeans every year by 2030. EU leaders have welcomed this target. We see now that many member states are using the unprecedented funding of the Recovery and Resilience Facility to invest in reskilling and especially in vocational education and training infrastructures and mainstream green and digital skills development in their plans. The momentum is there. This is good news for your Green Skills in VET project. The project will be crucial to help the sector of services of general interest transform. It is about equality. It's about ensuring people on equal access to quality services. The pandemic has shown us again how crucial public services are, not the least health and care services. Helping services of general interest transform and modernize is the opportunity for citizens to access better, more effective, and affordable services. And training workers in green skills is essential, for example, so that water runs properly in the tapes, and again, especially that water systems manage the scarcity of this essential resource, that cars can be recharged easily and public buses run on renewable energy. So we are really in a big transformation of our economy, a transformation of our society. And in this transformation, again, I insist very much on that, services of general interest are of essence, as are, by the way, the providers of education, of training, and especially also of vocational education and training. Dear friends, dear participants, let me again conclude by thanking again our today's hosts, SGI Europe and the European Federation of Education Employers. I want to wish you all the success for the Green Skills in VET project. We are all looking forward to seeing the fruits of the research and to see them work with VET schools to adapt training curricula and put young people in the best conditions to take up quality jobs. And developing, strengthening, expanding, supporting, that is also one of our main targets. We adopted last year an important recommendation on the promotion of VET, and we are really encouraging the development of apprenticeships, and especially encourage also young people to choose the way of VET as the best preparation for their future professional life. I am convinced that employers, social partners play a key role and active part in the green and digital transformation of our economies. To see that employers take on responsibility on an issue as important as training and education makes me optimistic about the future. But anyway, I would say we do not have a broad choice. We have to do it if we want to succeed with the green transition. And speaking of this future, you can count on me to continue supporting social partners, supporting also the development of training, skilling, upskilling, and especially also supporting VET projects. I thank you for your attention, and I wish you a very successful conference.
Thank you very much, Nicolas, and we couldn't have a better start of our project. Indeed, I think that the key word from your speech related to our spirit and the very reasoning of why we decided to start this journey together with our members, EFEE, is really the word responsibility. We have, as employers, the responsibility to make the Green Deal a reality. And in particular, when it comes to service of general interest, we have always lived in a very specific way the word green, because we represent services that by definition must be green, must become green if they are not already. Public transport, energy, water, as you said. However, since that, I mean, even more within the pandemic, but in general, with the detail of the Green Deal that, let's make it clear, made the whole green world more challenging for us to make it a reality. Our wish is here to transform the could create new jobs in can create new jobs, it must create new jobs. And for that, the skill aspect is really a must. The other real political will and wish from my side with this project was to put in practice a competitive advantage that we have compared to other realities, which is the fact that education and vocational and training employers and providers are in our membership. So we really have a win-win, because in our own membership, we can put around the same table two realities that very often are said not to speak enough about between themselves. The famous skills mismatch is very often considered due to this lack of dialogue and the lack of very concrete, up-to-date educational and especially vocational and training pathways in order to respond to the changing realities of the labor market. So we have within our membership this real asset to make the two realities speak together in a very anticipatory way, which is, I think, something that we need to use more and more. And I was looking at the list of participants to this conference. It's really very encouraging to see around, energy providers like EDF or public transport providers from all over Europe, vocational education and training directors and principals, even of schools, because not only the vocational education and training, but also the school system is so important in this journey. So yes, it's very ambitious what we want to do, and in concrete terms, we want really to, with this project, try to adapt continuous professional development of teaching and training staff to the new skill needs, design solution for enterprises and education providers for adapting skill deliveries, and identify new potential partnership between service of general interest, vocational education and training providers, and other actors. Because of course, this project is, I would say, the very first step of a long journey that once we have done our homework on the employers and providers side, we'll have to meet the trade unions, because of course they are the essential second part of the story. It takes two to tango, and that is why later on in the program we have the intervention of Ludovic from ETUC. And then there is a final angle that I would like to put into this picture, which is indeed the pandemic. As you said, Nicolas, the pandemic really shed light even more. I mean, for us, it was always clear, but if any was doubting still about the key role of service of general interest to ensure the very infrastructure of the social market economy. Here, I think it will be really important not to lose this focus in the recovery path. And that is why in our membership, all the contribution to the recovery and resilience plans, when the social partners were consulted, and this was not so common, I must say, unfortunately, in member states, but when my members, our members had the opportunity to give the input and raise their voice, the link between the investment and reform angle through the green and digital, but especially the green, was very, very strong. So for us, it will be very important that the recovery and resilience plans maintain this focus and really support providers of service of general interest and education and vocational and training providers to make these green skills a reality. Because it's not a short journey, it's a very long journey, and that is why we need a through reform mindset behind these projects, and the green part of it needs to be very strong and very high, linked with vocational education and training and the job creation. And that is why I'm sure that we will have in you a strong ally. And now I would like to give the floor to my partner in this journey, Daniel Wisniewski from EFEE. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Valeria. Thank you very much, Commissioner Schmit, for accepting this invitation. It's indeed a wonderful opportunity also for me to welcome you all to this project. And this is indeed the first conference of this two-year project entitled Green Skills in Vocational Education and Training. The project is an answer of a growing need to build synergies between the education providers and employer organizations in order to jointly identify the skills for the future and ensure smooth pathways from education to the labor market. We are indeed lucky enough to live in very interesting times when a double transition is gradually transforming our very way of living. Recent travesties related to COVID-19 accelerated the use of digital tools in the workplace and individualized the form of working, opened new opportunities to better balance work and family time, and brought also some number of challenges like isolation or lack of human contact. The green transition, on the other hand, is somewhat in the background, entering step by step into our professional and personal lives, driven primarily by our need to preserve and reinvigorate the environment, limit the negative impact of our undertakings, agricultural, industrial production processes, and its impact on the environment. It is also about two major things: changing our very own way of living, our customs that may affect the use of natural resources, and raising awareness among people about the fragility of ecosystems and potential catastrophic consequences of irresponsible behavior. Following this wave, the European Commission embarked on a tremendous quest to be a global pioneer of this transition in order to build a green economy which is low carbon, resource efficient, and socially inclusive, and that can foster improved human well-being and social equity while significantly reducing the environmental risks and ecological sacrifices. Such an extraordinary effort of this transforming this functioning of our societies and economies will require involvement of all stakeholders possible. A very particular place an important role in the green transition is being played by the services of general interest. Among them, we could certainly name, for example, the energy providers that empower all companies of all sectors and improve our everyday lives. Transport providers that set us all in motion, making the world a smaller and more accessible place. Managers of water resources, ensuring our most basic needs of having access to water and sanitation are met. The waste managers, waste management companies being at the front line of recycling and then allowing to reuse our scarce resources. And finally, the education sector being the provider of competences and skills, essential to live a fulfilling and happy life for everyone, and empowering economies with knowledge, creativity, dedication, and potential. The green transition, however, brings a number of challenges that we will all need to face. Some professions will certainly disappear, others will emerge. This situation will require significant change of mindset of every individual to continuously invest on her or his upskilling that is linked with the changing needs to the labor market. This is the only way to ensure that the movement towards a new economy will not be the beginning of a significant skills mismatch, leaving many people behind. The European Commission indeed understands these challenges, launching initiatives that can support the green transition from the side of skills. Among those, we could certainly name the individual learning account as one of the many methods to foster adults' learning, or their entire for instance, the entire agenda of micro-credentials that is also supposed to help in validating skills and increase transparency on the labor market. Also, the promotion of mobility schemes among vet learners, entrepreneurs, secondary and university students, enabling them to gain their professional experience at companies of all sectors from other European countries that will foster the exchange of know-how and technologies among the EU member states. SGI Europe and European Federation of Education Employers, understanding the importance of our sectors, our respective sectors in green transition, decided to embark on this project in order to identify the current and future demands for skills in key services in the SGI sectors, promoting and sharing the teaching and training methods between the education training supply and the public services being the receivers of skills, mapping the existing links between the labor market and education institutions, and finally, identifying the necessary investment that need to be made into both public services and education institutions in order to safeguard our future and further development in green skills. I wanted to conclude with a quote from Commissioner Schmit, who in the event in Osnabrück in Germany somewhere last year Whenever we were preparing and finalizing the Osnabrück Declaration on vocational on skills, Commissioner Schmit called skills, named skills as the engine for economy. And it is indeed time for all of us to look into this engine in order to bring it to a new level, to change it, to make it more environmentally friendly, and to prepare it for the new economy of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for the introduction. Good morning again to our guests and participants. My name is Stefan Enike, and on behalf of SGI Europe, I'm glad to introduce you the first panel of our conference, which will focus on the green skills provision state of play. Just to recall for the participants, interpretation is available. Also, the Q&A box on the bottom of the Zoom screen where you can ask questions during the conference. We have in this first panel on one side a team of experienced researchers from ADAPT, which is the Association of International and Comparative Studies in the field of labor law and industrial relations, with a very good expertise also regarding vet and training systems. I would like to say thank you to researchers Emanuele Massagli and Margherita Roiati for being here with us today. In the second part of the panel, we will have two speakers that are coming with technical expertise from the ground. We will have Mr. Jean-Michel Roman, representing French Electricity Union, and Ms. Dominique Meyer, who is member in the executive board of an important vet institution, which is Koning Willem College from the Netherlands. Thank you very much, Jean-Michel Roman and Dominique Meyer, for being with us today. I will start this discussion with our colleagues, researchers from ADAPT. ADAPT team is helping us in this project together and analyze the data, and for helping us to better understand which are the green skills, where are the shortages, and how can we improve the collaboration between SGIs and vet providers. Although our project is rather in the first phase, the research team from ADAPT has already interesting preliminary findings that will be presented. But first of all, I would like to open this panel by inviting researcher Emanuele Massagli to present us the state of play of the green skills based on ADAPT research. Emanuele, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Stefan, for the introduction. I say something about some preliminary things about our research, and also then Margherita speaks about data and the research. The changes in the world of work require a holistic approach. Technology alone is not sufficient to ensure a proper transition to a sustainable economy, which must balance the conflicting issues of environmental protection, social equity, and economic balance. The investment in workers' skills is fundamental. It is necessary to promote, within work context, a real absorption capacity of innovation related to the green transition. Worker skills enable the transformation and allow its socially acceptable governance. People are always the center of the economy. They are therefore the first players of the green transitions. Investing in people skills means rethinking pedagogical methods and training. This challenge concerns both initial and continuing training, both general education and vocational education, both young people in compulsory training and adults involved in professional qualification and requalification. I would like to focus on vocational training because it seems the one entitled to manage the green transition, because it is oriented towards creating a cooperative dialogue, a profitable contamination between companies and workers in terms of investment in training. Countries that are traditionally weaker in vocational training, for example, Italy is one of these, according to the latest data, are also the same countries that are struggling most in the management of the necessary ecological transition. Some European cases allow us to focus on 3 points, 3 research questions. A first issue is terminological and definitional. What are green skills? Are they technical and specialized skills, cross-cutting ones, or both? How are they identified and by whom? A second point connected to the previous concerns how these skills are trained. It seems plausible to imagine, as pointed out by research, that a new way of working also requires a new way of thinking. This is in turn necessitates a new way of training and learning, and concerns both the path offered to young people and adults, but also the skill of trainers who must adapt both in terms of content and pedagogical methods. How are these competencies developed? How are they evaluated? How are they certificated? Lastly, a close look at the player of training is necessary. How are companies and professional training bodies progressing to avoid losing the challenge of the green transition? For all the aspects underlined, the terminological one linked to green skills, the formative one linked to a new method and styles of learning, the organizational one linked to protagonists of training. For all these aspects, it is crucial to combine study and theoretical research with direct listening to those who live these challenges on a daily basis, companies and training institutions. In conclusion, the training of green skills requires an effort to define it in such a way as to agree on what is meant by this term, also useful for useful skill need assessment. Once this has been clarified, it is necessary to rethink the relationship between work and training, not so much in terms of objective, but rather in terms of learning methods to build new professional figures and to update in an effective way those already present so that they do not undergo the great process of transformation underway. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Emanuele, for the introduction. And allow me to address you one question, because you mentioned something that I think is very interesting. You mentioned that technology alone is not enough for ensuring the transition and that workers need a genuine absorption capacity of innovation, you said. And I wanted to ask you, how can we develop this capacity, which is in the end a lifelong learning capacity in a very disruptive context? Because keeping up with changes and keeping up with innovation is a very serious challenge. And many employers and many workers do not have neither the capacity, neither the incentives to adapt to this very fast changing environment. How do you see this?
Thank you. The central element for a just transition, which aims at environment, economic, and social sustainability, is the investment in people skills. The first enabled tool available is therefore training, as already discussed in the speech. This dynamic, technological transformations and new skill needs has always existed in human history. What we are witnessing today, however, is, as you pointed out, the high speed at which these changes occur. I'm referring to new skills needs and the skills obsolescence phenomena. For this reason, compared to what has been done in the past, that is when specific skills need emerged, which over time was consolidated and subsequently ENDOC training courses were designed and put in place. Now, not only a suitable degree of responsiveness is necessary, but is also strategic for its effectiveness, that the relationship between companies and training institutions takes place already within the phase of construction of the training courses and on the basis of variable data and information concerning the skill matching issues. Only a plural participatory approach aimed at anticipating needs can keep up with the transformations we are witnessing. Moreover, if this is true for the design of new professional profiles and curricula, it is equally important to invest in alternance training, allowing trainees, students, and adults to acquire skills both in classroom, formal context, and in real and innovative work context, non-formal and informal context. In summary, to cope with change, it is therefore increasingly necessary to structure alliances on a territorial basis between training system and industry sector, which start from a careful and constant assessment of needs, and then build path of continuous hybridization between theory and practice, between learning and work. Thank you for your question and for this moment.
Thank you very much, Emanuele, for your intervention. I would like to pass the floor now to the second member of ADAPT team, Margherita Roiati, who will present us the preliminary findings from the initial survey of our project. It is important to mention that the survey is, and all the research process in our project is still ongoing. Therefore, the data, including the profiles of the respondents, might undergo changes until the end of the project. Margherita, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Stefan, for giving me the floor. Just a quick reminder for participants. Now I'm going to present, as stated by Stefan, the preliminary findings of the survey carried out by my organization. I will skip some slides in order to keep in time with the agenda schedule, but do not worry, since I will make the presentation available for all participants with comprehensive data and information about the research carried out. Now I'll share my screen. Okay, presentation mode. Here we are. So before starting the analysis of the data gathered through the online survey, just a few information to understand which is the background of the research. First of all, as mentioned by Stefan, this is an online survey which is still ongoing. So we do expect to have more replies and to involve different kind of stakeholders replying to our analysis. And the survey will be also integrated through in-depth follow-up interviews, and also the overall research will be complemented by the information gathered during the 3 thematic workshops which are going to be carried out during the implementation of the general project. For designing the survey in order to be effective in terms of the quality of the information gathered through this methodological tool, we have collaborated to the project partners, and not only SGI Europe and EFEE, but also the other project partners, to design an effective guideline to be submitted to both SGI providers and BIT providers. As you can see from the slide, we have included 6 sections in our survey. Some are of general interest both for SGI providers and BET providers, and some others are specifically devoted to the 2 kind of affiliation of respondents. Just to from this slide, you can have a look at the panel composition. Again, this is only a preliminary findings, and the survey is still ongoing. So we have a good balance in between respondents from SGI providers and VAT providers. We had also a good geographical coverage, but we plan to extend this coverage during the research. And we have, of course, covered not only the energy, transport, or water sectors, which are the ones prior to the project, but also we have respondents from the economy, business administration, chemistry, medical, electricity, construction sectors, since we have VAT providers providing training in all the industrial sectors. As mentioned during the presentation from Commissioner Schmit and also from the SGI and EFEE, we've tried to set the scene about the awareness of respondents concerning the European Union involvement in the green transition, and also the involvement of their organization in adaptation projects that can contribute to improving the resilience of their activity and to increase the climate change effects. You can see from the graphs the current situation. Not only thanks to open-ended questions, we also gathered interesting practical and empirical examples we are planning to include in the final report, which is going to be delivered at the end of this 2-year project. You can see some examples from the slides. So we have also a good coverage in terms of practical examples from different European member states, and also concerning different kinds of projects. I want to highlight the ones from France, which also takes into account an in-depth analysis about the skills, needs, and competencies and occupation required by the energy sector, which could also be pointed out as a good practice in terms of involvement of different stakeholders and build a research which is also useful for the actors involved in the in a sectoral perspective. Moving on, an important are the reasons for not working on adaptation projects, helping improving the resilience so as to increase the climate change effects. As you can see, the first item in terms of options selected by respondents is the lack of resources, namely the financial ones, which is also a recurring feedback which both VAT providers and SGI providers told us to be a barrier to implement also cooperation in terms of projects for improving a better matching between the skills needs in the green skills needs in their sectors and countries. About the awareness concerning recent national, regional, and local policy initiatives in the fields of environmental sustainability, we have a majority of respondents stating that they are aware of these initiatives. This is a good result, since it will help us in gathering more detailed information about specific initiatives and to analyze them in order to provide good information for project partners. We have also tried to understand the perception of respondents about the extent to what national, regional, and local funds pay attention in the green skills in that issue. As you can see, insufficient attention is the most selected item, but again, we still need to complete this survey to have a good overview of this perception and about the state of play of financement and financial incentives also in this area. Moving to the third section of the survey, this is an important slide. Keep it in mind, since it provides a good overview of the rating provided by respondents about the importance of a selected number of green skills we have included in the survey. Why only 4 kind of green skills? Since thanks to this survey and also to the desk research we are still implementing, we'll try to provide a good taxonomy of the green skills, analyze it in a sectoral perspective. So these are just the main ones selected from the preliminary desk research, but thanks to also to the replies from respondents, we will be able, and of course, and also to the interviews to provide a more complete overview of the green skills needs in the sector prior to the project. As you can see, all the skills received replies in the spectrum of importance and heightened importance. So this is also a good starting point for selecting other green skills for our research. Again, the skills mismatch is not only a fancy word in the European context, but it's also something which is really crucial for allowing a good matching in between the skills supply and demand, and not only at nation but also sectoral level. And we asked respondents to the survey to say if their company organization have been involved in skills assessments, forecast, or foresight exercises. Some of them also replied that they have carried out this kind of exercises specifically with reference to green skills. This is something important. We will go into more detail about this kind of analysis. One additional important point, which is prior to the project, is the level of collaboration between SGI providers and VAT providers, which is something really topical and also strategic to allow match in between the skills provision in the green field. As you can see, only 3 respondents stated to disagree about the solid and effective collaboration between SGI and VAT providers. Although we have 11 respondents to this question and also additional 12 ones with specific reference to green skills, which replied neutral. So we had to further investigate if it is only a lack of awareness about respondents, or if there is not a collaboration in between the 2 type of organization we are investigating. And why respondents disagreed? Because of collaboration made possible only by the willingness of the individual, and in one case, again, lack of financial resources. But which kind of collaboration do occur in between SGI and VAT providers? From this slide, you can see that the most selected items are dual for example, apprenticeships, co-design of curricula and study program with also international institution told us it is an important step towards a good matching of a particular kind of skills at a sectoral level, internships, company visit, and again, the other kind of items selected. But which aspects could be improved for a more fruitful and effective collaboration in fostering quality training, opportunities to adapt to green skills and labor market needs? Just to mention the 2 most selected items, I can see have specialized personnel for dealing with these issues, and also get access to information concerning best practices in other countries' SGI sectors, which we are going to also to further investigate this issue. About the perceived level of the effectiveness of the collaboration in between the 2 main kind of organization surveyed, we have a 3.4 out of 5. So we have a good collaboration going through SGI providers and VAT providers, but of course the data will be updated at the end of the survey. We have also asked participants about their staff and the level of green skills possessed by their staff, and this is the current situation, which will be again updated in a few weeks. And then moving to the VAT organization specific question, you can see the kind of training in green skills provided by the VAT organization participating in our service. So the first 2 items selected are job-specific skills concerning new green products, services, processes, and being practically involved in saving energy and protecting ecosystems. In general terms, in the majority of cases, the training is provided by external consultancy firms and company, and the training concerns both the update of employees, trainers, existing skills, and also the provision on new sets of skills. reasons for not providing training, again, the first selected item is the lack of resources, both human and organizational, and also the lack of financial resources. In the majority of replies from the IT providers, we can say that green skills are already encompassed in the educational offer delivered by respondents' organization. And you can see a few examples of the kind of green skills training encompassing curricula delivered by the organization. And one important point, which is also linked to Dr. Massali's presentation and also from the previous presentation, is the difference in between the educational contents in between green skills teaching and general skills teaching. You can see from the graphs that we have respondents stating the more practical and less theoretical oriented teaching methodologies could enable the teaching of green skills, and the second selected item is debating improving the skills of trainer, which is an important point. Moving on and moving to the SGI provider specific questions, you can see also here the state of play about the organizations providing training for their employees, and also the areas concerned by this training. And you can see both specific and sector-oriented skills and also transversal skills. Reasons for not providing training from SGI providers' point of view is the lack of resources, human and organizational, and also they assess green skills gaps phenomena which occur systematically among their staff, which is an important point also to foster the collaboration and to provide training also to SGI providers. Just a quick look at the recruiting practices with reference to green skills mismatches. For the majority of respondents, unfortunately, new entrants to the workforce are not suitably qualified in green skills for the two reasons you can see from the graphs in the red color. And in 4 out of 7 cases, when recruiting new employees, companies declare to prefer that they already have green skills. So important also for the educational system to provide people with a good starting set of skills for being involved in these sectors covered by the survey. Just a quick look to the where respondents' company operates. An important point which should be further investigated is the perception of a lack of attractiveness of specific occupation in the industrial sector where the company of responder operates, that's in energy, water, and transport sector. And you can see also the occupation which seems to be difficult to find when within respondents sectors. Of course, also we will need a further analysis to gather more information about these kind of occupations. Now you can see, and I'm going to conclude, also examples of initiatives for the promotion of green skills at the national or European level, thanks to the information provided by respondents. You can see 3 examples. Of course, in the survey there are more examples. We just selected the ones which are already also available in English. And this is the current state of play of our research. Again, the presentation will be made available for all participants, and I'm now open for questions.
Thank you very much, Margarita, for presenting interesting and promising data, I believe. And allowed me as well to address one question, because I would like to focus on one of the slides that you showed us. I think one of the most interesting, which refers to section 3, where you are trying to, in a way, to deconstruct the green skills in different features. And we saw that, for example, being practically involved, so technical skills on the ground, is considered to be extremely important by the respondents. But in the same time, highly important is the environmental management, which I think is rather transversal skill than technical skill, right? So I'd like to ask you, how do you see this balance actually between technical and transversal skills within the green skills? Because it seems that the need in terms of numbers, it's bigger for the technical skills, but in terms of profession transformation, the need is also very high for transversal skills. What are your thoughts on this?
Stefan, thanks for your question, which also reflects one of the research areas covered by the project. On the one hand, and in line with also Dr. Massagli's speech, we can already state that a set of changes are already pushing the acquisition of a whole new set of skills, from technical to soft ones, that allow full participation in the economic activity and the labor market. But beyond them, a green culture, let me call that a green mindset, that's enabled by the acquisition of transversal skills, offers sustainable practices which facilitate the transition to climate resilient societies, greater resource efficiency and circular economy, needs to be developed strategically in the workplace, but also in VAT systems. This not only for increasing the resilience and adaptability of workers, managers, and stakeholders in general terms, but also to contributing to the green growth and other societal challenges. So on the one hand, sector matters, and it is crucial to investigate which occupations are challenged by the lack of environmental aspects and occupation-specific skills to make them more environmental friendly. While the demand for green skills, as all we know, is growing globally, that system in many countries struggle to respond and cater to these needs. In this regard, it is also important, like we are doing today, to share and discuss different approaches to embed sustainability in curricula and training regulations, first and foremost from the identification of specific knowledge and skills applicable to specific sectors, to the integration of transversal skills linked to the awareness about climate change and resource efficiency. To sum up, the challenge for vet providers and industry stakeholders is to address green skills needs, broadening from the narrow task of providing only training for industry and occupation-specific skills to the broader task of workforce development, lifelong learning for sustainable development.
Thank you very much, Margareta, for your answer, and thank you again to ADAPT team for the research and for the intervention in our conference. I would like to move now to the second part of our panel. Our next guest is representing French Electricity Union, which represent companies across the entire value chain of the French electricity sector, bringing together more than 500 companies with more than 200,000 employees throughout France. I'm glad to introduce Jean-Michel Roman, Social Advisor for the French Electricity Union. He will present us very interesting and recent data regarding the challenges ahead for the energy sector in France. Jean-Michel, please, you have the floor.
Bonjour, Stéphane. Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to be able to share this study with you, especially that it was mentioned by Margareta in one of the slides. So I'm going to share also some slides with you. So as I was already mentioned, this is the result of a survey and in-depth study we performed starting at the late 2018, and it took us nearly 2 years. It ended at the end of last year and gave some very interesting conclusion. As an introduction, what I want to also to stress on that first slide is that the study was carried out in the frame of a partnership, and the first of a kind, where actually all the stakeholders of the electricity sector took place, including the French Ministry of Work and also the French Ministry of Industry, also the trade unions, the workers' trade unions. I think earlier on it was mentioned that sometimes these actors or are missing or not talked to, but we involve them in the sector and in the studies. And also the professional association of the electricity sector itself. So so talking about the electricity sector, just a quick reminder, I think everybody knows that, but what then the outspan of our study covers is actually the electricity system, electricity generation, transmission and distribution networks, electricity supply, and digital services. Also, it's electricity in the building sector, being in new construction, but also very important for the reservation of residential. Green Deal has a lot, especially in France, a lot to do of actually in improving, I mean, the building equipment of the country, isolation and so on, energy efficiency equipments, data centers, and also digital services for building and storage and batteries, which actually is transferred to or transverse to all the dimension. Also electricity in industry, the processes, energy regulation, and the last part of the sector we included, it was also infrastructure for cities and transportation and mobility equipments. You see here, the infrastructure is transport itself, urban infrastructure, or what cities equipments are concerned. And again, digital, you see here, of course, it's a key word, and it's probably also one of the most important transformation issue or stake for the future. Now, the study had two approaches. One quantitative, counting, how many jobs are currently serving the electricity sector. So as you see here, we found out that by the end of 2018, the electricity sector had 600,000 jobs spread all over France's territory. You see here the outspread of these jobs. So with no surprise, at first, and with 300,000 jobs, we find the electricity system. But quite a surprise, I must say, was the big amount, also a big quantity of jobs in the building sector. And you see industry and infrastructure for cities and transportation quite equal, 41,037,000. I won't read, all the spread or the repetition of the other. And in detail, you will find that on the slide. I will happily also make available. And another, of course, interesting thing is that implementation. This is what the prospective approach also of our study is, that the implementation of the Green Deal and other, regulations we have in France that contributing to the ecological and energy transition will create more than 200,000 additional jobs by 2030. Again, as I said, first quantitative and then also qualitative. We looked what are those jobs, and also what are the skills behind these jobs. So what we did is actually we could identify more than 100 jobs contributing to the electricity sector and to its transformation, and modernization, and also contributing to the Green Deal, making us able to associate them with the green skills we will try to look into all together. Out of these more than 100, we identified 23 jobs that were already short-staffed, and among these 23, 11 jobs that were already very, very critically short-staffed already today. So then we also we actually focused on those 11, and with very in-depth analysis, we described the jobs and were able to actually construct and to build up, to write 11 job sheets to very, very completely actually describe the jobs. What were the missions and activities, to make it just understandable for everybody, not only for specialists, of course, because sometimes when you talk about electricity jobs, people only think about electrician, but they don't really see what's all behind. So that's important to describe the missions and activities. The shortage factors, why is there a shortage? Is it because you don't find the people, or because, you know, maybe the skills are evolving very much? It's been said already this morning that the evolution speed is very, very quick. Job evolution, as I said, training, what trainings and education programs lead to that jobs, all diplomas from be it initial education or be it vocational education once you're in the company. Also, what was important is where the career paths and variants, that's very important. Through which other jobs could you get access to the job in question, and also what other jobs would that one lead to, which is, of course, for career perspectives, especially when we're young people, very, very important. So this is a huge, it's a mine of information, actually, and we have this, and very, very useful, you know, and effective if you then want to really go deeper into the needed skills and also define some education, you know, solutions or education programs. The jobs, the 23 I told you about, the short-staffed jobs, were sort of put into this matrix. The matrix shows actually the shortage reasons and why actually are we facing some shortage phenomenons and short staffing issues. You see here on the horizontal axis, it's the job transformation speed. So the more on the right, the more you go to the translate to the right, the job is transformating quickly. And on the vertical is actually the growth rate in quantity of jobs. You see at the bottom level is less than 5% of expectations of growth, and at the top it's over 10%. You see here the 23 jobs in question, and here we have the, you know, the main at the top right corner, those 4 orange squares. It's the job with the most shortages, and especially the top right square: electrical design engineer, technician design, and office design, technical manager, business manager, and data analyst. So that was the you know, the most short-staffed job. So we could actually understand, thanks to that analysis, why they were actually short-staffed. And then, and I conclude with the recommendations that were also made at the end of the study, thanks to the learnings we made in the survey. 3 axes, as you see. First axis is adapting vocational training to job and skill changes. Dealing with a mismatch, we've been talking already this morning. And also facilitating access to continuing vocational training for all employees, in particular those in small and medium-sized companies, because we find, of course, in the sector, they're very numerous, but many times, it was also said in the survey Margarita presented, sometimes they don't have the means, technical or administrative, and maybe sometimes not the money, but so this is really public or some people, I mean, some organizations we certainly need to look deeper into and to help better to develop such training programs. Then also the other axis was dealing with the attractivity, because shortage, one of the reasons was also that those jobs that, and also I wanted also to stress that our feeling is that, you know, our approach of green skills is, you know, all the technical skills, the hard skills you actually need if you want to implement, you know, solar, photovoltaic, all the new technologies, and also the smart cities, smart grids and everything. This is really technical skills that are actually missing, much more than the so-called environmental jobs, where actually that can, or I consider probably sometimes more successful, and to recruit differently, and also emphasis on apprenticeship, also advertise the sector, providing lots of qualified and substantial jobs, and also maybe tell again the general public how the electricity sector actually contributes to the green transition, which we find is sometimes maybe a bit forgotten. And also the third axis is strengthening on the territories, the region, and also you see we talk about Europe, just to stress also, and that was one of the conclusions, how important the job we're doing at these various levels and what we're all doing together today is. And so I'm very confident that you know, we'll find solutions that we're already working on the concrete solutions and projects to actually respond these recommendations. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jean-Michel Roman, for your very interesting presentation and for the insights that you presented from the French energy sector. Allow me please to address you one follow-up question as well, because I know you have significant experience in your sector. Therefore, I would like to ask you, how has the collaboration between SGIs and VET providers evolved in the last years? Maybe it has improved, maybe it didn't. Can you tell us more about this?
I think it has improved, and I can also give maybe a personal testimony, because I've been working in HR for many years and dealing with with these mismatches and education issues. And I think the openness now and readiness to exchange and to deliver better matched actually training is there among the providers. I have to say that. The only problem is that it's so widespread. There is such a vast variety of bodies and companies that actually deal with education and training, that it's very difficult to talk to everybody. And of course what we're facing, I think, well, in France at least, but maybe it's the same in other countries, it's the division, it's silos. The education ministry is dealing with initial education and technical education. Then you have the work ministry, they deal with people who are already in the job and vocational education. Work ministry again also deals with people who are looking for a job and are missing some skills, and then some other actors have the money and the power to also develop some education actions. So it's very difficult. It's very you have to talk to a lot of people and to organize lots of meetings to make sure things can be better matched. And of course the solution, and what we found, is really this territory approach, where the most efficient things we could actually develop were in the regions, where you're very close to the field. You know your industry sector that is not the same in a region or another. Also the education providers, be it public or private. Also the companies there. The professional organization are on the floor, and people know each other. And then partnership and involving all the actors. And it was said by Valeria in the introduction, is very important. It's more efficient and maybe more easy to do it on such smaller scales.
Thank you once again for your intervention.
Thank you.
Our next speaker has extensive experience as a manager in education, representing Koning Willem College, which is a regional training center in the Netherlands for senior secondary vocational education, adult general secondary education, and adult education. The college has more than 200 different training and thousands of people who studied there every day. And also the college was nominated as the most sustainable VET college in the Netherlands. Dominic Meyer will present us how the college is trying to introduce the green skills into the training programs, but also the challenges and good practices. Dominic, thank you for being with us today, and please, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. Well, a lot has been said before, so it's very recognizable what Jean-Michel and Margarita and also Emmanuel told. So that's, I think we can encourage each other in this kind. One of our core values is to go for a better world. So we signed as a school the SDG Charter and want to act on all the 17 global goals in our curriculum or school management, and with and for the societies and companies with which we cooperate. We focus on both the social and the eco targets of the SDGs. this meeting is about the eco target, so I will focus on that part. And the energy transition and the circular economy play a very important role in this part. We know that for students, teachers, and other employees, they need green skills, and we emphasize it throughout the whole curricula of all our students. We are doing our best to educate them in these green skills and, well, larger than that. Skills on how to reduce the energy and materials, how to implement the use of renewable energy and sustainable materials, and how to use them as efficient as possible. But not only skills, we also invest in awareness. For that, we need well-trained technicians in school environment, which sets a good example and which has the facilities to teach them in a proper way. And there is a difficulty we are facing, because also in the Netherlands, there's a lack of students who want to study techniques, and there is a lack of teachers who can study in the techniques, and especially in the new technologies focused on sustainability. We think our school must be a showroom for technique, and we are finishing right now a new building for all our technical educational tracks, and all the technical installations in this school are open. You can see it throughout the entire building. They are not covered but are shown proudly, so students can see how beautiful technology is, and also how technology will support us to reach the global goals. We have a lot of solar panels, heat pumps, low temperature heatings, climate ceilings, LED lighting, triple glaziery, well, etc. And this can be seen throughout the whole school. At our entrance, just behind the service deck, the big air treatment facilities are shown, and students and all visitors can see the heat wheel turning. And this wheel recovers heat out on the airstreams. And if you walk passing it by, you can see the energy it is generating. And in this way, we hope to attract more students to study techniques, and also to enlarge the awareness that technology isn't the cause of our pollution. Maybe it is partly, but that it's especially it can be and should be part of the solution, so we can reach the global goals. As a school of vocational educational training, we also emphasize goal 17 and partnerships for the goals. And we invest a very strong in reliable and sustainable partnerships in Den Bosch, Hertogenbosch, the city where we are situated, but also in the region around us. In our city, we have very good relationship with big building companies, and we sign a lot of agreements with our the businesses and also the SGIs with which we cooperate. So we go together for the reliable and sustainable partnerships. And then we are focusing on dual training programs, co-designing of curricula, internships, research and development, and in the whole part. The big companies I mentioned, they already develop many ways to build in a sustainable way. They are an example in sustainable building techniques and want to become climate neutral in 2023. And our students are working with them, and they are working with us as teachers to enlarge the awareness of our students and the green skills they need for the future. We are also cooperating very good with the network Sustainable of the city Hertogenbosch, in which many companies, educational institutes, not only the VETs, but also higher education and universities and the municipality work together in creating a green and sustainable city and region. For collaboration, we also signed a city deal, and we are an UNESCO school. So we are stimulating not only the green skills, but all the UNESCO values for our students. Our governance asked the VETs to write sustainability in all qualifications. well, the government didn't need to ask us to do this. Our ambition is that in all our educational tracks, all our curricula, the global goals are we seen everywhere. There's the green skills, but also the people skills and the cooperation in the region skills. When this is accomplished, this is part to be of the exams and assessments, so we can measure the effect. We are still having a long way to go, but I think we are ready for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominique, for a very interesting presentation. And allow me to address one last question before our break. Because you described something very interesting when you are talking about your efforts to create environments that are attractive for students, and you said that you design your school in a manner that is like a showroom of technique for attracting students. I think that's very, very inspiring and interesting. So my question is, do you have any specific strategies for attracting to your training group of youth or of adults that are not very well represented in the technical jobs or not represented in the adult education neither?
Yes, thank you for your question. Yes, we have. The new building has a wide open entrance to the street level, and it's well, when you would see it, you want to come in. So we are inviting schools around us, but also businesses and SGIs to come in. And besides that, we have a lot of partnerships with schools for primary education and secondary general education. And we are inviting them as well to come in to follow masterclasses regarding technical education. And we also have all students, and that's growing. It started with the technical students, but now all other students are also participating in, we call it a kind of talent master classes, but it's a large master class. It takes 10 weeks. Students from different disciplines are working together on interdisciplinary assignments from SGIs and businesses, and they all are related and reached from out of the global goals. So all students in future, and as I said, it's the group participating is growing, will have during their career at Koning Wilhelmijn College at least 10 weeks of an interdisciplinary program related to technology and related to the global goals. And in this way, we want to create the awareness, but also include the technological element in each curriculum.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So our first panel is coming to an end. I would like to say again, thank you for the introduction part. Thank you to Commissioner Nicolas Schmit for opening the conference. Thank you to Valeria and Daniel for the introduction part. And thank you very much to the speakers of the first panel. I think you presented very interesting information. Thank you to the research team from ADAPT, Emanuele Massagli and Margherita Royati, and as well, thank you very much to Jean-Michel Roman from the French Electricity Union and Dominique Mayer from the Koning Willem College. We will have now a 10 minutes coffee break, and we are waiting you for the second part of our conference. In the second panel, you will have the chance to see our speakers representing CEDEFOP, the European Commission, the Public Employment Services Network, and ETUC. Thank you very much, and we will be back in 10 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a restful coffee break and feel recharged now to participate in the second part of this kickoff conference to the Green Skills in VET project. My name is Isaline Ossier, and I have the pleasure to moderate this second panel on reinforcing the institutional partnership. As we've heard several times already this morning, achieving the ambitious goals set out in the European Green Deal, particularly with regard to the green skills delivery to the labor market, will require the collaboration of various key actors. Ensuring an effective dialogue and creating a meaningful institutional partnership will therefore be an indispensable factor in Europe's green transition. Having this in mind, it is therefore my pleasure to welcome the next panel, which includes representatives from the various institutional stakeholders involved in this green skills transition. I would like to welcome Mara Brugia from CEDEFOP, Ms. Chiara Riondino from the Directorate General of Employment at the European Commission, Mr. Spiros Protopsaltis from the Public Employment Services Network, and finally, Mr. Ludovic Wood from the European Trade Union Confederation. Before I give the floor to our panelists, I would like to remind and invite our participants once more that you can raise any questions that you might have for our panelists in the chat box, and we will thereafter raise them to our speakers. So first, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Mara Brugia, who is the Deputy Director of CEDEFOP, which is the European Centre for the Development of Vocational Training. She has been the Deputy Director since September 2014, and before that she was the Acting Executive Director from June 2018 to August 2019. Ms. Brugia, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Isaline, and many thanks for the invitation and for this opportunity to share with you some reflections from CEDEFOP's perspective on our work on skills for the green transition. At CEDEFOP, we have been studying for more than 1 decade the links between vocational training, employment, and environment policies. So we are aware that the challenges posed by the European Green Deal go well beyond its potential impact on specific areas of the economy and the labor market. And we have recently carried out some preliminary analysis of the likely effect on employment of implementing the European Green Deal. And our preliminary analysis shows that, for example, the waste management sector will clearly benefit from the implementation of the European Green Deal initiatives, while the ongoing decline, for example, in sectors like coal mining or fuels, is expected to exacerbate as compared to current trends. And in most other sectors, for example, electronics, but also textile or steel, implementing the European Green Deal policies will likely redirect employment towards cleaner production. So meaning that it will not lead to significant net employment changes. However, these preliminary analyses that we carried out are aggregated and so do not and cannot take into account all adjustment costs, distributional effects, and possible bottlenecks that can hamper a just transition towards a greener economy. But we can safely say that a greener Europe with higher energy efficiency, lower pollution, and a healthier environment will not come at the cost of lower employment. However, at the same time, we also know that some sectors, some member states or some regions might be exposed to negative employment effects in the transition phase. And more generally, we should say that the transition to a sustainable economy is not just about renewable energy or recycling of materials, but will cut across all sectors of the economy. So this implies that green policies inevitably confront, I would say, firms and workers with adjustments that may create economic and welfare costs for different segments of the population, at least in the near term. And this is why moving to a sustainable economy brings both important opportunities, but also unprecedented responsibilities for VET and skills policies, and therefore for all stakeholders concerned, including social partners. And we already see also from our work the first positive effects that the greening of the economy has triggered in some countries in employment demand for jobs and skills affected by the green transition. But we also see the recruitment bottlenecks that are already emerging in some areas of the labor market, for example, in the construction sector. So I'm saying this because it is clear that we have a tremendous challenge in view of the large-scale training needs that will arise from the greening of the economy. I mean, the challenge of responding to questions on which skills, which qualifications, at which levels, in which areas, for whom and how. But at the same time, this is also a very important chance for VET, for vocational education and training, to demonstrate and actually confirm its crucial role in local, regional, and national development and skills strategies. And if we want to be able to identify the skill needs for the greening of the economy and translate these needs into qualification standards, programs, and curricula, we also need timely and robust skills intelligence to understand in what way, so to say, the drivers of the green transition affect them. And it is for this reason that our work at SEDEFOP on VET policies analysis goes hand in hand with our skills intelligence work, because as is the case in other areas of VET policies, robust skills intelligence can really guide people in making education and career choices, but can also help policymakers, social partners, and other providers in taking investment decisions and in making the necessary adjustments to qualifications, training profiles, programs, and curricula. And in the past years at SEDEFOP, we have invested heavily in methods and tools to understand which skills learners and workers need, most recently by using big data from online job vacancies, for example. But making skills intelligence smarter and robust, it's not enough if it is not actually actionable. And in fact, what we see from the outcomes of our studies so far is that in many countries, skills intelligence is still little, if at all, used to inform policies and measures for the green transition. And in fact, for example, our work on skills for green jobs pointed to significant room of improvement for more targeted and more timely skills anticipation data and tools. And in our view, in this context, it is particularly important to drill down to the sectoral level. And I'm happy to see that the results of your green skills in VET projects can contribute to better understanding what the green transitions in the three sectors you are focusing on means for skills. And at SEDEFOP, we are currently initiating a skills foresight exercise to identify the relevant implications of the European Green Deal in 4 economic sectors. So I see clear opportunities for mutual learning and exchange of information and experience between our respective work in this area. And your project and our foresight exercise are largely based on a partnership approach, because in our view, partnership is the main driver of meaningful and powerful skills intelligence. We always advocate a multi-stakeholder and a multi-source approach which engage all key actors, not least to reflect together, for example, on meaningful policy innovations. And this includes particularly the social partners, but also education and training institutions and also VET providers, of course. And to conclude, I think that in this forum, everyone, I think, will agree that tripartite partnerships are in the DNA of VET and skills policy more generally. And I would like to give you an example taken from our peer learning activities on upskilling pathways for adults. And there, one of the points most frequently highlighted by all participants is the importance of involving social partners in the governance, program design and delivery, and various forms of learner supports. And our evidence shows that in the past years, cooperation between VET providers and enterprises has actually been reinforced. And we have seen a growing range of enterprises sharing responsibilities, being engaged in program design and in the professional development of VET teaching staff. And in any case, it is clear for us, and it's our firm belief, that a transition of the magnitude of greening cannot be achieved without the inclusion of all key stakeholders and the key actors. And if we take the European Commission's Pact for Skills, for example, I think that this can really create a bond between up and reskilling policies and the European Green Deal. But I'm sure that Chiara will also come back to this later on. And this would require strengthening the traditional partnerships that underpin vocational education and training, and widening also these partnerships to include, for instance, guidance, but also employment services. And for VET providers, this also means being part of the relevant skills ecosystems and the so-called knowledge square, which links education, research, innovation and service to society. And this not only to benefit their learners and staff, but also to demonstrate how VET providers and learners in different types and levels of VET can really contribute to the green transition and help co-shape it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that first intervention, Mara. That was very interesting. And you really raised some important topics that were also highlighted by some previous speakers as well. You really touched upon the partnerships quite well. So having that in mind, of course, coming from CEDEFOP, I would like to ask you then as a follow-up question, what in your vision can CEDEFOP do to really support the reinforcement of these sustainable but also meaningful institutional partnerships when it comes to green skills and the green transition?
Thank you, Isaline. Well, as you may know, we at CEDEFOP do not only promote partnerships, we also walk the talk, I would say, in the sense that we have a tripartite management board, which is composed of representatives from governments, employers and employees from all 27 EU member states, plus the Commission, of course, DG Employment. And we also involve and associate our tripartite management board in steering committees which accompany specific projects or studies. This will also be the case, for instance, in the new project I was referring to in my intervention, aimed at building scenarios based on foresight exercises focusing on specific sectors affected by the greening of the economy. So we will have this tripartite, let's say, advisory group accompanying and advising us so that we can shape with them the results of the project. And for example, we also do this more generally also through our peer learning activities, where we bring together policymakers, social partners, researchers, experts, VET providers, and teachers and trainers, and other VET and labor market actors. And perhaps a last comment. Today, of course, I have focused my presentation on a few activities that are specifically dedicated to skills for the green transition, but I can assure you that greening is a horizontal issue for us across our portfolio of activities, and in cooperation also with other EU agencies and international organizations. And if I may, a very last comment in this connection, we are organizing together with the OECD a symposium on apprenticeship, which will focus precisely on the transition to greener economies and societies. So if you are interested in attending, you can pre-register for the symposium in our website, and the symposium will take place in October on the 21st and 22nd of October.
Thank you very much, Mayra. I'm sure that a lot of our participants here today will be very much interested in joining this symposium. And thank you also for really highlighting the importance of social partners in this conversation. I think that's, of course, why we are here today. Thank you for this first intervention. We will then move on to our second panelist, which is Ms. Chiara Riondino, who is the head of unit for vocational education and training and CDFOP at DG Employment at the European Commission. As head of unit in charge of this unit, Ms. Riondino is responsible for working together with the member states, with the social partners and other stakeholders to develop and implement policies that help people develop the skills they need in life and on the labor market, and also to improve the effectiveness, quality and attractiveness of vocational education and training and adult learning. Ms. Riondino, I have the pleasure to give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Isaline. I'm very, very happy to be here today because this project is really extremely timely and very important for us. So we will be watching very closely how it evolves and looking forward to the first results. Many topics have been already discussed and mentioned. My Commissioner Schmit, opened this conference already delineating the key messages on the Commission side, of course, and we couldn't hope for a more enthusiastic ambassador, both for vocational education and training and for the green transition. So I will maybe focus a little bit more on the concrete actions that we are carrying out, but also some of them have been mentioned. And of course, the Commissioner talked about the European Social Pillar Action Plan. So for us, this is really at the heart of everything that we do in the Commission, and it's really guiding our social employment policy, because what we really see, and sorry to repeat it again, but I think this is really the key message that we all have to be aware of, is that the green transition, like the digital transition, really have the potential for raising the overall well-being of the EU population and of the world population, because we are now really clearly reaching a turning point where we will not be able to turn back. So the climate challenge is really something that concerns all of us. And these transitions, these twin transitions, will also create opportunities for better life, for better work, for better jobs. But it's not automatic that these transitions will be fair and that the benefits will be equally distributed. So at the basis of the heart of everything that we do, we always have to consider how to make these transitions as fair and just as possible. So that's just the chapeau to set the scene of what we do. The Commissioner mentioned the skills agenda that was adopted last year in July. We just celebrated its first birthday, and we have a dedicated action on green and digital skills. And on green, we are doing a number of things. We're developing a taxonomy of skills for the green transitions through our ESCO tool, which is a taxonomy of skills, occupations and qualifications that will help us identify the gaps that we have to fill, as everybody mentioned, and Mara just very clearly made the case for it. We really need massive retraining, but we also need to know where we have to go and what is the gap that we need to fill. We're also working as Commission on a competence framework on green and sustainable skills. We are working on identifying core sets of green skills for the labor market, and we believe that this project that you are working on will definitely help and contribute to this important action. And also we are working as Commission on a proposal for a council recommendation on education for environmental sustainability. We will soon launch an open public consultation, so please watch out for it. We would really welcome your contribution on that. The recommendation on vocational education and training that the Commissioner also mentioned, together with the Osnabrück Declaration also on vocational education and training, where social partners, of course, were at the forefront of the discussion, also very much focuses on the importance of that to manage and promote and support the green transition. And we're very, very happy that we are about to set up a working group with member states under the umbrella of the European education area that will focus thematically very much on that for the green transition. And we hope that this will be a tool, a forum also to showcase and to learn among member states from examples like the one in the Netherlands that was just presented, where it's not only about providing green skills, but it's about going green 360 degrees, also in terms of infrastructure, in terms of really building an environment that is conducive to raising awareness, raising new environmentally conscious citizens and students and future professionals. So this is extremely important for us. We're also, of course, working through our European Alliance for Apprenticeships to encourage very much new pledges to incorporate green elements. And okay, I know that I'm being repetitive here, but this is really very important. Transversally on all of these actions, the key is to have partnerships, and social partner cooperation is for us extremely important. Also cooperation with public authorities and cooperations between the labor market and education and training providers. So this is really, if we have to pick one key success factor, it would be partnership, and the fact that these partnerships and these projects and these initiatives are really embedded in the territory, in the economy and the fabric of a given region. And this would also allow us to connect with all parts of society, and also to bring in small and medium enterprises that might have some hurdles to take part in larger scale partnerships or international dimensions. The Pact for Skills was mentioned a number of times. Of course, this is very important for us because it focuses on ecosystems. So bringing together all the partners in a value chain or an ecosystem, and really exemplifies this idea of partnerships. Similarly, through our centers of vocational excellence projects that we are supporting with Erasmus Plus funding, we really hope to bring together a wide range of local partners to stimulate innovation and excellence on the ground. The funding was already mentioned by my commissioner, the Recovery and Resilience Facility, but of course this is the big novelty, and it's a lot of money, and we are very happy to see that member states are really taking this opportunity to invest and put forward reforms in education and training, also in a lifelong perspective, and in support of the digital and the green transition. But also we should not forget also the other, let's say, ordinary funding instruments that are available through the European Social Fund, through Horizon, through the Regional Development Fund. So we really, again, in partnership with the member states and all the relevant players, we really hope that this can be a turning point, and a point where we get the momentum to act and really make lifelong learning a reality. Maybe just one final point. I was very happy to hear that Daniel, in the beginning of this event, made a reference to micro-credentials. This is indeed something that we are working on in the Commission. We are going to come up with a proposal for a Council recommendation on micro-credentials, together with a proposal for a Council recommendation on individual learning accounts. And we believe that both these initiatives really will provide opportunities to people, on the one hand, to get control over their own development and training, and on the other, really to make sure that the opportunities for learning, for adapting to the new realities are there, are easy to grasp for individuals, and are of good quality, and can really make a difference in supporting their adaptation to the new needs of the labor market and society. And then I conclude by wishing you really all success with this project that, as I said, is very important to us. And we hope that it will help us to better understand the skills needs for these specific sectors that you have chosen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chiara, for introducing us to really all the work that the Commission is currently doing with regards to green skills and green skills in VET in particular. It's great to see that there are so many initiatives on this very important topic. As you say, it is very timely. I would like to follow up with a question. I think the key word of the day is, of course, partnerships, as you underlined several times as well. We have talked about the partnerships on the ground, but I think it's also important to raise that there needs to be a collaboration and an effective dialogue within the Commission as well, and within the national governments, of course. So can you maybe explain to me what the Commission's strategy is with regards to creating a cooperative dialogue between the different directorates general, such as, for example, DG Employment and DG EAC, and how also the Commission aims to promote the same collaboration between the relevant ministries at the national level? I think it was also touched upon by Mr. Roman in his previous intervention, that we need to, of course, combat this silo thinking and to really collaborate within the ministries and within the Commission itself. So if you can explain us your vision on this.
Thank you very much. Yes, definitely the Commission is working absolutely closely together on this. You know that we started very strong and very clearly with the Green Deal. That was the very first initiative that this Commission put forward. It was not even, I think, a month that the new college was in office. So they really gave a strong signal, and this percolates all services. I mean, on green, but in general, on every topic, there is a very strong culture and also machine, I would say, of inter-service cooperation. Many of the initiatives that I mentioned are put forward jointly by EMPL and EAC. The Pact for Skills is a joint EMPL GROW initiative. So as you say, we speak of the Commission, we don't talk about one single service. And for us, it's extremely important that there is, you know, I don't get into the mechanisms of the several inter-service groups that we have, and our Secretary General, that of course is holding everything close together, but this is definitely a priority that crosses all directorates general. Maybe you might be interested that in DG Employment, we even created a brand new unit as of the 1st of July, which is dedicated entirely to fair and just digital and green transition. So that unit for us in DG Employment, of course, will be the ears, the eyes, and the mouth that will allow us really to be present and to be aware of everything that is going on in the Commission. So we take this extremely seriously. We try to encourage the same kind of cooperation, inter-policy and inter-ministries in the national authorities. This is, of course, at the end of the day, always a decision of the member states, how they want to organize this. But of course, our message is always, this is overhaul of our traditional way of thinking. And I think that it was also long called for. There should not be silos. Education and training is something that starts from the cradle to the grave, and this means that it really accompanies us through everything that we go through our of course first years, our formation, when we look for a job, when we are in a job, when we want to change a job, when we need to interact with other people in society, when we read the news and we need to be aware of fake news, when we need to be aware that in this case we all have to change our ways if we want to save this planet. I think that there is no space for one single policy to just solve everything, and we need to talk to each other, and we need to have really holistic and comprehensive strategies that combine policy, investments, concrete tools, and partnerships.
Great, thank you so much for that clarification, Chiara. With that, we will move on to our third speaker, who is Mr. Spiros Protopsaltis, who is the first vice chair of the PES network, which is the network of the European Public Employment Services. He is also the CEO of PES Greece and is furthermore the governor and president of the board of directors of the Greek Manpower Employment Organization. Mr. Protopsaltis, I have the pleasure to give you the floor.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the invitation. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Spiros Protopsaltis, first vice chair of the European Network of Public Employment Services. I'm going to share with you a brief presentation. So for those of you who are not familiar with the PES network, it was created in 2014. It brings together the public employment services of the 27 EU member states, plus Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. Our network aims to enhance the cooperation between European public employment services. As we have heard today, Europe's transition to a climate neutral continent, as laid out in the European Green Deal and the European Climate Law, will lead to both new emerging green occupations and a transformation of existing jobs across the whole economy. The impact of the green transition on labor markets can vary quite widely across regions and labor market segments. Overall, large movements of low-skilled workers across sectors can be expected, as both job creation and job destruction will quite likely be significant. For some labor market segments and local areas, there is a risk of skills mismatch and thus an increased risk for structural unemployment. The transition to a greener economy will have an impact on workers at all skill levels. Skills profiles for green and greening jobs tend to focus in the short term on the low and medium skill level. In the long term, a trend towards more demand for high-skilled workers can be expected. A key challenge consists in skills adaptation and upskilling through the inclusion of new skills into existing skill sets, as well as the identification of the transferability and portability of skills from one occupation to another. These skills can be specific technical skills, as well as generic, horizontal, or so-called soft skills. In terms of public employment services approaches to reduce the skills mismatch and the gaps, we believe that public employment services will be key actors in mitigating the negative labor market effects and the necessary smoothing of the transition towards a greener economy. The PES network has therefore recently finalized a study on the impacts of and the approaches to the greening of the labor market, which is going to be published very, very soon. One of the objectives is to help identify needs for cooperation between partners and stakeholders. The study demonstrates that PES need to disentangle various approaches to offer adequate measures to reduce the skills mismatch and skills gaps. 1, identify skills needs, identify transferability of skills across sectors and occupations. 2, mitigate negative employment effects. For some labor market segments and local areas, there is a risk of a significant skills mismatch. 3, issue with the job quality and working conditions in some green subsectors. 4, women that are specifically underrepresented in green jobs. In most countries, we know there's a significant gender divide regarding advanced IT and technical skills, but this is also an issue with green skills. 5, endow low-skilled workers with the necessary technical and generic green skills. 6, provide vocational guidance for adults and support small and medium enterprises in particular. 7, reduce labor shortage of green jobs and green skills. In terms of examples of best practices, updated labor market information, adequate classification of occupations, and adequate active labor market policies, including training measures, are key contributions from the past. Close cooperation with other partners is important to increase PES capacity to accompany the green transition and complement the green transition on the labor market. PES and their partners can build on experiences gained in identifying transferability of green skills and setting up targeted training measures, such as, in Greece, for example, OAED, the Greek PES, is actively promoting a lifelong skilling strategy aimed at enhancing vocational education and training. Cooperation with and contributions from other partners, stakeholders, and social partners is at the heart of our new VET model. And this is something that we've invested significant resources in, and we are expecting that the resources that are going to be flowing into the country from the Recovery and Resilience Facility are going to really be able to empower us to implement a very ambitious plan for the reform and upgrading of our VET model, which includes, of course, an emphasis on digital and green skills. Just to give you a very small example, there's a region in Greece where the coal industry is going to be eliminated within the next few years based on the decision by the government to stop the emissions from coal burning plants. And thus, we're going to have a significant impact on the labor market and the need for new investments in the green economy in order to make the transition from the coal-based economy to the next day. In that context, we are building what we call a green VET school that is going to be completely dedicated to reskilling, upskilling, and providing youth with the skills to compete and gain the jobs that are going to be created through new green investments. For example, solar panel energy, hydrogen, a variety of other things that we're going to be investing in the region. We need a new workforce, and thus this green school is going to be dedicated entirely to providing the local labor force with the green skills that they need to fill these new jobs. In France, green jobs are estimated to account for about 16% of all jobs, and the importance is increasing. The French PES has implemented several programs to support the green sector, often adapted to local needs or conditions. For example, the program 10,000 Verts targeted on youth. The program includes identification of job requirements and skills, as well as training to obtain these skills. The PES network study I mentioned has also identified some key areas for PES's contribution to further skills development. Providing vocational education and guidance to girls and young women in such a way as to motivate them to enroll in STEM study fields, possibly with a specialization in green skills like climate, energy, and environmental engineering. Promoting skills adaptation on the basis of acquired skills and experience. Skills adaptation, upskilling, and reskilling will also become relevant, of course, for older workers. Continuing the development of schemes for validation of prior learning and upskill, if necessary, to obtain certified skills. establish an overview of certificates related to the acquisition of green skills, providing information on training offers in the area of green generic and technical skills, and increased transparency of training offers. Since training measures are costly, PES would have to clearly communicate to the relevant ministries the need to foresee sufficient national budgets for the transition towards greening labor market, priorities to activities on green skills for EU funding to implement the European skills agenda would indeed help a lot. I'm sorry, that was a mistake. Close cooperation between PES and employers, sector associations, vet providers and training institutions, as well as universities and research centers is key to grasp the type of skills needs, required skills adaptations, and the need for upskilling in specific occupations. Close cooperation with other partners specialized in identifying the transferability and portability of skills would increase PES capacity to accompany the green transition on the labor market. PES and their partners can build on some experiences gained in identifying transferability of green skills and setting up targeted training measures implemented by PES in a few member states. We will be happy to bring in all of our knowledge to support the transition to a greening labor market. We are dependent on and look forward to close cooperation with key partners as stakeholders, such as training providers and employers. Today's conversation is very timely as it will help us to take stock of other stakeholders' experiences. We are looking forward to follow this project, which I'm sure will inspire new collaboration. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Spiros. It was very insightful. You really touched upon several topics, and one that I picked up upon was that you mentioned in particular women and low-skilled workers and other socially, economically vulnerable groups. So what I wanted to ask you was, how can the PES network really help ensure that no one gets left behind when it comes to this green transition and with regards to specifically upskilling and reskilling within the green skills?
Well, those facing the highest barriers to employment always need to be an area of particular focus and emphasis for all the PES. Even without the greening of the economy, we have significant challenges in the integration and reintegration of specific populations into the labor market. This is something that all of the PES are facing across the board, and it's a constant challenge how to address them. I think that in any strategy, any sectoral strategy, or any national strategy around the green transition, there has to be a dedicated toolkit, a dedicated strategy for reaching out to these populations and ensuring that the comprehensive services that these populations need are available. Let's face it, the work-ready, job-ready, unemployed with some quick upskilling and reskilling are going to be able to make the transition to the green economy. But the populations that you are mentioning need extra layers of services, need intensive counseling, need significant outreach, and need continued monitoring and support throughout the process of getting them ready to enter into these new jobs of the green economy. So in other words, there is no one size fits all. We can't have a horizontal strategy that we think is going to cover everybody. We need to have a multi-layered strategy that takes into account the different characteristics of different populations and the fact that not everybody needs the exact same package of services. Some need more, some need less. Some need a different type of service. Some need, for example, 2 months of training or 6 months of training. Some people may need a year of training. It depends on their skill set, their prior work experience, and the barriers that they face. So we can't think that if we do a horizontal short-term training program, that's going to cover everybody. we also need to partner, since this is the topic of this theme, with other services, social services, other ministries. It's not like the PASS can do all of this on their own. The one thing that I think everybody realizes and recognizes is that big challenges such as digital and green transitions of the economy require all stakeholders on the table and everybody to contribute, according to their particular role and mission and what needs to be contributed for a national strategy to work. So there is no easy answer. I think that as all of us here at the PASS always struggle with these populations because they are the hardest to serve, but I think nobody disagrees that our goal should be that nobody's left behind. And that means that our strategy needs to reflect that goal and make sure that it covers everybody and does not simply focus on the more job-ready populations to make the transition.
Thank you very much, Spiros, for that very direct answer and for the rest of your contribution as well. It was very interesting. That leads us to our final panelist of the day, which is Mr. Ludovic Wout, who is the Confederal Secretary of ETUC, which is the European Trade Union Confederation. Mr. Wout, I have the pleasure to finally give you the floor as well.
Thank you, and I think I'm in the easy position as I can choose on what I will, a lot has been said, so I can choose on what I want to focus to bring a new perspective. So thank you for having me here, representing the voice of the workers. I think in this discussion, it's important to say again and again the magnitude of the transition we will be facing as decarbonization of the economy and achieving climate neutrality by 2050 are key goals of the European Green Deal, but they will require enormous changes in jobs and tasks in all industries. It is forecast by 2030 that up to 20 million jobs could be created worldwide due to change of tasks and jobs within the green transition of industries, while of course there will be also job losses. And CEDEFOP also reported that 41% of the adult, 46% of the adult population, approximately 128 million adults in Europe will need upskilling and reskilling. So we need for this to link not the discussion on upskilling and reskilling, of course, with an industrial strategy which embed effective skill strategies that have to be led by industries and to ensure that workers have a just and socially fair transition to the climate neutral economy. Workers and the unemployed will need support to be prepared for the job and task transition, not only by quality and inclusive upskilling and reskilling, but also by validating their skills and competences, but also by guidance and counseling that are often underestimated. But upskilling and reskilling is not just transition, it's only a part of it. So it's also important to say that if we focus today on upskilling and reskilling and on green skills in the transition, social protection is also a part of the just transition to leave no one behind. Protection of good quality jobs is also part of it. Support to affected regions and investments to ensure in clean technologies to ensure that jobs will stay in the regions where there is the challenge of decarbonation is key to ensure a just transition that leaves no one behind. For this, I would like then to say that our key demand with the European Trade Union Confederation is that we have a tool that is the European Pillar of Social Rights. We need a concrete implementation of the first principle that would ensure right to access to all to training to all workers, to quality and inclusive employee training on skills and competencies needed for this green transition, also for the digital transition, but here in what we address today for the green transition. Better access to employee training for all workers with different contractual situations need to be guaranteed by the companies within also the tool of collective agreements that they can discuss with trade unions. Equal access to adult learning for all people from different socioeconomic background it was mentioned just before, need also to be ensured here. Of course, the government have a key role, and also the public employment services. It is also important that we ensure a better access to paid educational leave, while we still have the ILO Convention 140 that is not ratified by several EU countries. This right to paid educational leave can support really workers to attend study programs or courses for career development in relation to new jobs in greening industries, or for their own interest also to be more aware of environmental changes and sustainable development. And there are a lot of workers that would like to know more about the green transition and to be equipped to guide also their career for that. We underlined as trade unions, of course, that upskilling and reskilling of the workers is a socio-economic responsibility, not only one of the individual. Therefore, workers should not be left alone, and they have to be able to find and finance, be supported to find and finance training on skills for the green transition of industries. We need to identify the responsibility of governments and companies toward ensuring these quality jobs and just transition for the workers, supported by effective quality and inclusive trainings. One idea could be also that, and this could help in this discussion, the Commission could set up an indicator for or a benchmark on the number of adult and employees participating in trainings on green skills, green competences, and environmental awareness and responsibility by year until 2030, following the example of the target in the European Skills Agenda set up on the participation on digital skills training. So if the green transition is as important as the digital transition challenge, an indicator here would be, of course, useful. We think also that the EU should support the member states, should ask the member states, in fact, to set up a sustainable public budget to support, in general, environmental responsibility education, and in particular skills and competences for jobs in the green transition of industries in adult learning, employee training, validation of formal and non-formal learning, and guidance and counseling. And this could be monitored by the European semester and the social scoreboards. The Commission could request the EU countries to set up reforms to be supported by the RRF, for example, or other EU financial tools. This means also it's important in this regard to say that for the E2C, there's a no-go for austerity measures, especially in SGIs and education, as they will be key to ensure that the transition can be done, and they need the sufficient means to do this. I think this leads me to say in my conclusion that there is also a key responsibility for VET providers and SGI providers in this transition. I think that through the financing of reforms in the RRF, there's also the responsibility for governments to also modernize, of course, VET and SGI's infrastructures to be able to cope with the challenge of tomorrow of the digital and the green transition. So I think there's a need for measures there, but also as key responsibilities for VET providers and SGI providers, I think the ensuring the transferability of the right to training, for example, ensuring the validation of skills and qualification, ensuring the equal access to training for all workers and all adults, providing guidance and counseling to workers, is the importance also of access to full qualification, as well as the quality assurance of courses and accreditation of their quality, is something that is at the core of the work that is done and that has to be supported. To conclude, I think there's a need for European initiative to ensure the right to access and financing of adult learning and employee training that can address really the challenge to leave no one behind in the transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that intervention, Ludovic, and for really highlighting the position of the trade unions, of course, also in this important topic. as you really touched upon a lot of different topics which were quite interesting. So maybe as a follow-up question, you particularly highlighted the role of the EU stakeholders, the EU Commission in particular in this. But of course, we are also here gathered as social partners. So maybe can I ask you what the key supporting role of social partners, both at the EU and at the national level, can be in supporting this continuous professional development with regards to green skills of the European employees?
Yeah, of course. Clearly, as trade unions, we have also the responsibility, and as social partners, the responsibility and a tool that is social dialogue. It is also collective bargaining that can ensure that we also tailor to the needs of the workers and to the needs of the companies the provisions. So anticipating the changes, what it will mean in the different industries, the different changes toward the green transition of the economy, what it will mean in terms of skills need for in 10 years, so that we can also guide and anticipate workers in that transition. So it means that if we know more or less where we are going in a 10-year frame and on a 3-decade frame to the decarbonation of the economy, it means also that we can plan, anticipate, motivate workers to tell them, okay, there's still a job in your company. It will maybe change, but we will equip you to be able with it, to have the competences and the skills for it. Maybe it will not be in your company, but then in your sector, because you have the skills of your sector, and we cannot lose this. We need really people and workers in this transition and the skills that they already have. So here, anticipation of change is really important, and for this, we have to take responsibilities and anticipating this development and not waiting the last minute and then falling in the situation where a company make a massive redundancy because nothing has been anticipated before. We have the tools to anticipate, and we have, and this is the only way we can ensure the just transition and not a hard transition of the economy. So for this, we are really calling for unions and employers to anticipate the changes in the economy.
Thank you very much for that answer and for the rest of your contribution as well, Ludovic. That concludes our second panel of the day. And this also brings us to the more general Q&A session that we will have with all the panelists of the day. So I would like to invite all our panelists to turn on their cameras once again, in case a question is directed to you. I would also like to invite again our participants to use the Q&A chat box to raise any questions you might have to our panelists. And with that, I will hand the floor over to Stefan once again to raise any questions that are left already in the chat box.
Many thanks, Iselin, for the moderation. Thank you again to all the speakers from the second panel. It was a very interesting discussion. We are going directly into the Q&A session because we are running a little bit late and we would like to try to respect the schedule. I see one question in the chat from Monica Bigliardi. I don't see the organization, unfortunately. I will just read the question. I believe it is very important that employers have the ability to cover the green transition with the aim of integrating occupational safety into every production process. Are there any experiences that go in this direction? Does the European Commission give indication in this regard? So I think maybe we could direct this question to the European Commission representative from the second panel, as I think the question is addressed directly to the European Commission.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, definitely what we are trying to achieve, for example, through the Pact for Skills and through other projects that we try to give visibility to, is really also the sharing of good experiences and practices. Now, I don't have any specific and concrete example off the top of my head, but it is what we do is we try to bring people together to exchange these experiences. So for the Pact for Skills, for example, there is a strong knowledge sharing idea to cross-fertilize between the different ecosystems and bringing other good examples in place. Same we do with the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, where we also have a pillar for exchange of good practices and knowledge sharing, so that participants can learn from each other. In terms of safety, we just published a strategic framework for occupational health and safety at work, which also, of course, takes into account the green and the digital transition. So you might want to have a look at that too, to have some inspirations and ideas. Ultimately, I would like to underline, though, that these are really, I would not even say national matters, but to some extent also company choices. And I think that the social partner dialogue at company level is extremely important, as it is at all levels, European, national, local, but also really on the company level, to really define and understand clear solutions that are specific for that workplace, for that sector, for that region. So I think this more or less addresses your question, I hope.
Thank you very much for this answer. I see two of the speakers from the first panel would like to take the floor. Jean-Michel Roman from EFEE. Please, Jean-Michel. You are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Well, yes, of course, and one very important aspect, I believe, is also, and I'm very pleased actually, and especially in the second panel, this came through very, very clearly, the role also of the employees and the central role, you know, as a certain readiness in change and adaptation will have to be made, and the help that will have to be provided also to the employees within the companies, but also maybe in other sectors to, you know, to make them adaptation ready, and not just to terrorize, because sometimes I get the feeling that, of course, talking about transition is, you know, can be very frightening, and we ought also to find ways maybe to, you know, to have things running and as smoothly as possible. Transition is, you know, a process that will bring us, and also the Green Deal and the objectives we have is in some years, of course. I'm not saying that it's, you know, that it's not going to be quick. It's quite quick and strong enough, I think, but still, we should insist on that. And also maybe also, yes, underline one of the other things is the position or the view we might have on skills that might be able also to change, especially to see how young people consider the skills, maybe not just as boxes they have to tick as, you know, maybe the traditional approach of skills is, but skills they have to, you know, they learn very quickly through also sharing in communities. And that is also maybe something we ought to take into account, that into this transition, and one of the solutions will also be the plastics or the flexibility of skills and ability to learn, not only, of course, from institutions, but also from professionals in network, you know, practicing already. And that, I think, is very, very important. In another survey, we learned that from also some things that young professionals told us about, you know, the conceptions of skills, and they say, okay, you say skill, these and these skills are needed, but I have other skills that can adapt to, so, and that's probably also one of the ways, and yes, maybe an optimistic way to see things.
Thank you for your contribution. And one last reply for this question from Margherita Reati from ADA, please.
Thank you, Stefan. Just an additional quick information may be helpful for Ms. Bigliardi. As for my knowledge, I think in early 2010, the European Agency for Occupational Safety and Health at Work commissioned a study which was called something like Foresight and New and Emerging Risk Associated with the new technologies in green jobs. So it is quite a study which has been developed, as I said, in early 2010. So also this research is quite timely, and maybe we can try to encompass a few information also to verify if these scenarios included in the study provided by the EU OSHA have been verified in the subsequent years. But I think is a topic quite well addressed by European institutions in terms of analysis, and as mentioned by the representative from the European Commission today, it is also included in the transition and in the challenges which are highlighted also in the new strategic framework for health and safety, which has been presented 2 days ago.
Thank you for your contribution, Margherita. Valuable information regarding the study that can be found and can offer more information on this topic. I don't see any other question in our Q&A box. So if there is no other question from the participants, I think we can go to our conclusion part, and we can also be in time with the schedule from the agenda. Thank you again to all the participants and to all the speakers. For the conclusions part, I would like to firstly give the floor to Daniel Wisniewski, General Secretary of EFEE. Please, Daniel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all these contributions. We have such a diversity of perspectives here. And indeed, this was a very successful event because this diversity is the richness that we can now take together, with the secretariats and work on. And that's indeed is the beginning of a major project, at the beginning of this project that will last for next 2 years. But at the same time, as Valeria mentioned at the beginning in her first intervention, it is also, I think, the beginning of a stronger cooperation here between the employers and the formal education providers or employers in education. Therefore, just wanted to name 3 things to wrap it up. 3 things that I think were quite important that we have been really taking into account. First of all, I already mentioned is the diversity of perspectives, and I am very happy to have at the same table people that really combine both practice, also different interest groups. We have employers, trade unions, providers of skills, but we also had a testimony from a director of a school. I think in EFEE we actually quite often do visits, and we organize visits to schools in order to see how the practice looks like. And one of the very interesting practices which I saw was sort of a partnership between a private employers or a private company and a school, in which the school was really allowed to use a very expensive technology in order to teach those skills with the use of this very expensive machinery that was in fact owned by a different company, and they were somehow sharing this machine together. That is an example of this cooperation between the education sector and the employers and the private sector. A second point is the institutional framework, and in here our responsibility as policy shapers, the organizations that contribute to creating policies, is to look into establishing a sort of a joint or framework of institutional framework that has 2 different objectives. The first objective is to establish such a framework to encourage the employers and the companies, the private sector, to go through this green transition, to look for new sectors of economy or the ways for them to widen their production or and go into a direction of more green economy. That's one. And the second institutional framework is there for the workers and for the people. So we can make sure that none of these people and this let's say this framework of sort of a social support in order to make sure that none of these people will be left behind whenever their profession can be somehow somehow changed or actually forgotten because of the fact that we have some new professions emerging. And finally, at the end of it, it's very important also to continue strengthening this forum of cooperation, and a forum of cooperation between all these stakeholders, because there's nothing worse that could happen to us than the work in silos. And I think that this project and this conference also is our attempt to actually make it happen. To stop working in silos, listening to each other, seeing if we can really speak the same language, and looking for the benefits that we can come up with for the benefit of our organizations, but most importantly, for the benefit of the companies and for the workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And it's for me to give you provisional conclusions. I mean, these are not conclusions, these are reaction to what I've been listening this morning. And contrary to Daniel, I'm not an education and vocational training expert. So the first challenge was for me was to navigate in all these acronyms. I think that education and VET is one of the most acromized, I don't know even how to say it, policy at European level. And it was very helpful to see what is behind all these acronyms through the various examples we had also from the very ground level. So I learned a lot already from this first kickoff conference. I was quite surprised. I mean, not surprised, but it was clear to me that what we are approaching is a very specific task. When we speak about education and VET policies in general at European level, we speak a lot also about the soft skills, but from some of the speakers, we clearly had the message that when it comes to the green transition, we really need to focus sometimes on very specific, very technical skills, and also the fact that really we need to be able to have a differentiated approach. So I'm here combining a bit what Jean-Michel said at the beginning with what Spiros from the SPES network said afterwards, so that, I mean, is really the not one size fits all here is really pertinent, and that you need to find a differentiated approach for each task, each skill, each workers, and this per se is already a challenge. Then I was really impressed to see already from the first kickoff conference a very good example of innovation from the Koenig Wilhelm College. We really learned how this innovative approach can bring the 360-degree to green, and is for me something very important because it's also part of the attractiveness of certain skills, certain job that sometimes we as employers, we struggle to make attractive. So this is really, this holistic approach is really important to improve the uptake of those skills. And then I totally agree with ETUC when they say that green transition is not just about skills. So it's for us clear that this project is part of the bigger picture of all the policies that need to accompany the green transition. And this is really important because we as social partner, expert, company or education providers, SGI or education providers, but also member state, we need to have this really clear in our mindset. It's not just one policy, is a combination of policies. And of course, the action plan on the pillar of social rights can be a very strong guidance on how to reach all these different parts. But for that, I must say that social partners and the European Commission alone can't succeed. I hope that also echoing what Daniel has said, this project really will be an encouragement to stop working in silos. And this is very important, not only at the European level, because this is something that we have been learning and we are learning more and more to do, also thanks to the approach of the European Commission in this regard. But at member state level, there is a lot still to do. So our respective members need to find a fertile ground at the national level to have this cross contamination of competencies and skills that will make this 360-degree approach possible. On our side, because I always want to conclude with what I see as our responsibility, of course, we have as social partners the responsibility to be part of the solution. And as Ludovic said, social dialogue is key in this respect. Why? Because I really believe that it's only through social dialogue that we can reach this anticipation of change that will make the transition possible. And anticipation means that we have a shared responsibility as employers and as workers. We as employers, we have the responsibility to put everything in place, inform, and share with the workers in a company, in a sector, the kind of plans and policy. And on the trade union side and the workers' side, there is the responsibility to accompany and embrace change and not to resist it. So I really think that the joint approach is a very important one. We have a living example with the project from Union Française de l'Électricité. I think that's a very good way to do it in practice, and I'm sure that our project will help also fostering this joint approach. So we have a lot of ingredients to make this journey together a success, and I look forward to see you again in the next steps. Thank you very much.